I don't know how I mean, you look like you're in witness protection down there right now.
Well, I just actually got off the beach, took a walk on the beach, beautiful day. I don't know why it's so dark in here, but I really enjoyed it. Of course, my clothes were off. No one's at this beach, so clothing is optional. Took Tucker for a nice long walk. Hey, let me touch on something about Pac-Man Jones, because I heard you talking to Doc earlier. Love Doc. He's a liberal. He's a big-time liberal, but that's a whole different story. As far as Pac-Man Jones, I am not related to Pac-Man Jones. I just want everybody to know that. I am 3% black. My great-great-great-grandma was black. 3% black, but no relation to Pac-Man Jones. In fact, I've met Pac-Man a couple times. I like him a lot. He's a pretty decent guy. I know he's done some bad things, but I like him.
I think most people that I've talked to who have been around him, they say the same thing. The neighbors of his I've met or people that live on his street or whatever it might be. I think he's in northern Kentucky, if I'm not mistaken. But they all say that same kind of thing, that he's a very engaging guy, he's a warm guy, fun guy to be around, all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, look, I'm not going to drag this into a political mess here, but you said you're 3% African-American.
Yes.
That was good enough to get Elizabeth Warren apparently into college. So have you taken advantage of that in any form or fashion?
No, I'm sure. I don't know if Dusty Baker, if I played in the World Series, would consider me African-American being 3%. I don't. You know, Tom, I don't want to talk about race and stuff because, you know, how that crowd all been out will get in trouble. I do have something to tell you. And,
yes.
And this is kind of, I'm glad that I'm kind of dark and you can't really see me because what I'm going to say is big news. And I don't like to ambush you. It's not ambushing you, but I probably should have run this past you guys at Chatterbox before I go on with this. There's a rumor out there that your dad is going to come back and broadcast.
Hang on. You hang on, Tracy. You are really breaking up here. I mean, I don't know if that palatial estate, you said it didn't have cable TV. I'm wondering about now the internet connection. Let's try it again. What is the big news?
There's a rumor out there. Me. The rumor is that your dad is coming back to broadcast.
There's a rumor out there that my dad is coming back to broadcast. There is zero chance. Where did you hear that rumor?
I heard that rumor, and it's kind of funny because we both agree that your dad is the show Wednesday is like peak Marty. Marty is getting better, and I think Marty has really regretted retiring, and I think he's going to pull a Tom Brady. I really do. Now he's not going to divorce Amanda. You know, he's not that stupid, but I am hearing, and I've heard it from two sources, that he's thinking about coming back and being a broadcaster in some capacity. That's what I hear, Tom. You can go with it.
Is there any way, Casey, we can call my dad? Do you have his number?
He's actually out of the country.
I do not.
Oh, that's right. He's out of the country. That's right. He's on the high seas, probably not too far away from you right now.
Yeah, and I know this for a fact. He's been practicing. He's been watching the World Series. He's been practicing. Now, he doesn't want to jump into this right away, this broadcast, because he's been off for a while. So I'm hearing that he's going to broadcast the Cyclones game just to kind of, hone his craft a little bit and go from there. This is big stuff, and it's a huge rumor. I know it's kind of stretched a little bit, but I've heard it from more than one source. And I'll tell you how I knew something was going on. Your dad and I were having dinner the other night at Walt's Hitching Post. And all of a sudden, Marty jumps up and goes, "And this one belongs to the Cyclones." And I go, "Marty, where did that come from?" It's kind of like Tourette's. And Marty said, I'll take the steak. And he changed the subject. Something's going on with your dad, and I just want to break it on your show, Tom.
Well, I mean, we this is the kind of thing where, the media in this day and age are going to report on things that aren't true, or they're going to, not have confirmed sources on this. So,
okay, let me ask you a
I don't
question.
know where to go with this because I don't think there's
Okay.
any chance whatsoever
Okay.
of that happening. That's my opinion, though.
Yeah, that you have nothing to do with this. I mean, I'll take the pressure. I have no problem with that. Let me ask you this, and
Sure.
you agree on this. Don't you think your dad's just as good? Don't you think his voice is better now than we go back to 1974 when he first broadcast?
Well, it's
Marty's
much better.
getting better.
It's much better.
Yeah.
The timbre in his voice is much different. He stopped smoking, as you know, which he used to smoke for many, many, many years. He just sounds better. His voice is spectacular. But I can promise you, wherever your sources, is this by chance from your old friend Richard from Indian Hill? Is he part of this rumor mill?
Listen, I'm not going to tell you my sources. I'm not.
Of course you're not. Of course, you're like the New York
Of course
Times.
I'm not. That's exactly right, Thom. One of the reasons you have me on this show is because of my connections. Is that not true?
That's
right?
true.
I played
And
for five-
because you are able to see things other people don't see.
Right. And this is something I'm hearing. This is what I'm hearing, that Marty's coming back to broadcast. Remember, I played for 5 major league teams, played in the American League, the National League, the East Coast, the West Coast. Damn it, Thom, I played in Canada. I mean, I know a lot of people. I have a lot of connections. And this is why you have me. And to break stories like this, you can laugh all you want. I know Casey and Paul are going, yeah, right. Watch when it happens and it goes down. Everybody's going to be talking about it because they heard it on Chatterbox. That's what I'm talking about, Thom.
Casey, Paul, do you have anything to add to what is clearly it's the equivalent of what we were talking about before the show?
Well, you know
about what Stephen Colbert did the other night. And
No.
now he's being ripped up one side and down the other for, saying something that's just not even close to being true. And this is Tracy Jones right now.
Well, I think, honestly, Tracy, I think I have to side with you because I know the Cyclones, they upped the dollar beer night from $1 beers to $2 beers. So if he needs to go down there and get comped some beers, what better way to do it than announce the game? So I'm in on it.
See, so you can get that visual. Also, when I was over at Marty's house the other night,
I thought you said you were at Walt's Hitching Post.
Yeah, I was. That was another night. I see Marty. I see your dad more than you see him. Remember, Thom, I'm the major leaguer he never had. Now, he's kind of proud of you, but he's really proud of me. But I went over to Marty's house, and he was sweeping. He had his sweeper out. He was vacuuming. And then the other day, about 4 days ago, I go over to his house, and he's cleaning out the gutters. He's up on the roof. Now, he's 80 years old, and he's cleaning out gutters. My whole point is, he's bored to death. Amanda wants him out of the house and back to work. And this is going to go down. I don't know when it's going to go down, but he's going to be broadcasting. I'm not telling you it might not be the Reds. I have 3 teams. You want to hear them?
Let me hear them.
The Angels, because of the politics, Orange County, okay? Number 2, the Marlins. And number 3, the Rays. You ask why? No taxes in Florida. And Marty watches his money. So those are the 3 teams that I think is a possibility. And Thom, he's going to need a color man. And I think you would be perfect.
No, I was getting, as soon as you said those 2 words, color man, my thought immediately is why not Tracy Jones and Marty Brennaman in the booth? Could you imagine that, the success that you two have enjoyed for decades? Brennaman and Jones on baseball, to now all of a sudden have 3 hours of that in a broadcast booth every single night. What do you think the reaction would be like in Miami, Florida, if you two were on the air doing Marlins games on a nightly basis?
I think it would go over well. It's just I'm so popular in Bellevue. I mean, I'm like I'm like a king in Bellevue. Everybody's, oh, how you doing today, Trace? It's like, how could I leave Bellevue, Kentucky? I can't do that. I really can't. So I would stay. However, if you got a job with Marty, how do I figure in? Because you Brennamans can't do it without Tracy Jones. Tracy Jones is part of your show. Tracy Jones is part of Marty's show. I'm a big part of the Brennamans. Can you fit me in somehow, some way?
Dude, I'm telling you, I think that I think the pairing would be you and Marty on either Marlins, Tampa Bay Rays. Lord knows the audience would jump dramatically for those two franchises if you guys showed up. And the Angels, I mean, that's back in your old stomping ground out there.
Whew. You talking about some clean heinies out in Orange County. Woo. Nice. Nice. Real nice. You know what I'm talking about, Thom? Am I breaking up? Oh, sorry.
I do know what you're talking about. I know exactly.
Can we talk a little bit about something that you said about baseball and how you wanted a clock? That might have been the.
Well, it's going to happen. It's not a matter of whether I want it or don't want it. It's going to happen. So, I mean, it's going to happen starting next year.
It doesn't make it right, Thom. I love baseball the way it is. Every single game has a clock, right? Except for baseball. That's what makes baseball so special.
No, it's what's making baseball a dying game.
No, I totally disagree with that. If you watch the World Series and you watch the playoffs, there is not a better.
The World Series and the playoffs are different, Tracy. The issue is not people watching the playoffs or the World Series, although I got to tell you, it's going to be fascinating because when they had that rain out in Philadelphia the other night, we talked about it on this show at the time. You weren't on that day. This is baseball's worst nightmare, potentially. And I'm not saying it's a slam dunk on what's going to happen. But they are keeping the travel day on Friday after Game 5 tonight. They're keeping the travel day in the schedule, which means, and the power brokers that be on Park Avenue and the MLB offices will tell you this behind closed doors. This is like a nightmare scenario for them. And that is arguably a Game 6 and a Game 7. The two biggest games in the sport of baseball. Okay, the World Series. This is their Super Bowl. Are going to have to go head-to-head with college football on Saturday, where you've got Tennessee playing Georgia. You got Alabama playing LSU. You got all these big games in college football. And then if it goes to Game 7, Major League Baseball is going up head-to-head with the National Football League. And we're talking about regular season games in college and pro. The ratings.
Who cares? We don't want that football crowd. We don't want that NBA crowd. We don't want that. I've followed the game of baseball since I was 4 years old. My mom let me stay home from kindergarten to watch the World Series against the Cardinals, against the Tigers. Okay, I love the game of baseball. And when I hear you slam that great game saying you want a clock, you know who wants the clock, Thom? Announcers like you. That's why you want it. Your dad, this is why I love your dad, because he's so old school. He wanted those games to go on forever. He loved doubleheaders, didn't he? He loved the banana phone, right, Thom? His favorite player, do you know who it was?
Who?
Mike
Tracy
Hargrove.
Jones.
Mike Hargrove. You remember him?
Oh,
Human rain delay, right? He didn't care if the game went 18 innings. Marty was old school, like a Kurt Gowdy, those type of guys.
All right. Well, look, I'll be the first to admit, on multiple issues with baseball, I am still very old school. My concern is for the sport. The playoffs in the World Series are not the problem with a pitch clock. The problem is 162 games. You just can't keep the fan base you're trying to build up, the younger people. You can't get them to watch without more action, Tracy? That's the question.
So the sport worked for how many years, and all of a sudden you're going to change it up? Because
society has changed, Tracy. Society has changed. And baseball games used to be, as you well know, and I've said on this show 1,000 times, when I was announcing the Cubs games in the early 90s, back when you were playing, late 80s, early 90s, even when I moved on to the Diamondbacks in the mid-90s and the late 90s, a 3-hour game was rare. Most games were in that 220, 240 range, right in there. And this was all pre-quote-unquote internet, cell phones, computers, all that kind of thing. 2 generations of kids have grown up. Now, when they turn on a baseball game, it's 3 hours plus 3:15, 3:20. Paul, you can jump in here on this. Casey, too.
Yeah.
You guys are living proof of what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I mean, broadcasting in the minor leagues last year, the Orioles placed a huge emphasis on taking pitches, right? They didn't want you to swing at pitches. They wanted you to develop your eye. They wanted you to develop how you saw the pitches and get deeper into counts. But what that meant was the team that I broadcasted for, Tracy, they were AA team for the Orioles. They went from playing the fastest games in the minor leagues the year before I got there to last year playing the longest games, or one of the longest games, because every player was – it was 5, 6, 7 pitch at-bats, which, I mean, you well know, is a great at-bat. It's a quality at-bat. You want to see 5, 6 pitches in an at-bat, and you're going to hit a home run because eventually the pitcher's going to run out of stuff. But what that led to was crowds leaving in the 6th, 7th, 8th inning because the games ran long, and every game being 3 hours, 3 hours and 15 minutes, even in the minor leagues. Now, this year, I've talked to a lot of the guys in the minor leagues that I broadcasted with last year that were there and saw that pitch clock in real time. They talked that, it was an adjustment in the beginning, but that the quality of play didn't decline. And in fact, it was just the same. It just took out a lot of that unwanted dead time. So that's where I stand on it.
No, nobody's complaining. The only people that are complaining are you announcers. You know, no one complains. You know, everybody wants the game over with, right? You know why? Because the broadcasters are lousy. How could you have a Thom Brennaman sitting here doing a show? The guy's one of the best broadcasters, period. Vin Scully has passed. A guy by the name of Marty Brennaman, who's coming back. I don't know for what organization he's going to be broadcasting for. I mean, but if you have great broadcasters, who cares if the game goes 3.5 hours? I mean, you guys do because you work it. You want to get out of it.
No, Tracy, no. It has to do with because I sat through hundreds, if not thousands, of NFL games that go 3 hours, or college football games going 3 hours. But the difference is the amount of action that takes place. Nobody seems to mind sitting through a 3-hour football game. They really don't. You say you don't want their crowd, that's fine. But I'm saying nobody minds sitting through a 3-hour football game because there's action. A 3-hour baseball game, 3-hour and 20-minute baseball game, day after day after day in June and July and August, it's not cutting it. Or they wouldn't be doing it.
You know what? Like I said, we don't want the NBA crowd. Don't go to the baseball. We're not going to get that crowd. It's cerebral. We're always thinking. I can't tell you. I'm sitting here enjoying baseball, guessing what pitcher is going to throw what pitch. Is he going to throw a curveball? Is he going to throw a fastball? Watching why Berkman is so good to the ball because he's got short arms, right? I mean, getting into it and really breaking it down. You got to enjoy that in baseball. That's what it's all about.
I do in the postseason. Paul, you had something to add?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to ask you, Tracy, if you look at the minor leagues and you say that, okay, next year with the pitch clock, that the quality of play would stay the exact same, but you would take out all of the unwanted dead time in the game where guys are standing around or guys are fixing their gloves or whatever it might be. Are you still against, even if the quality of play is the exact same, nothing changes, but you just eliminate those unwanted dead periods? Are you still just don't want to change anything?
Let me break it down for you JOs, okay? I enjoy the game of baseball. Okay? I don't care if it lasts 4 hours. I'll tell you how sick I was, Thom. I would go watch batting practice when I'd go to an Angel game. I'd go and watch batting practice when I went to a Dodger game. I love the game. And I think you don't care about if it lasts 2 hours and 35 minutes or 2 hours and 45. And let me add one more thing here. If you really want to know the breakdown of the time, there was actually a study with the Royals and the Twins. I think we talked about this. I think I talked about it with your dad. The first 3 innings, Thom, are fine. They're within that 15-second, the pitcher.
You're right.
Then the second time around the batting order, it gets a little longer, and then when the relief pitchers come in, then we really slow it down.
Yep.
You ever see a baseball game? The first 3 innings, you're sailing through. It's like, oh, man, this is going to be a 2-hour game. And then it starts to drag a little bit. I like those games. I'm not in a rush, Thom. I just sit there, eat my popcorn, or I don't eat popcorn. I eat my salty peanuts and my root beer, whatever I'm drinking, and watch a baseball game. That's what I enjoy.
Right.
I like it.
Okay. All right.
That's why you have me here.
We just agree to disagree, and that's fine. Now, before we let you go, I have to ask you, have the accommodations improved at all? Because a lot of people are wondering, you were with us down in Cancun at that alleged 6-star resort. You called it a dump. You get to the place, this 7, 8, 9, 10 bedroom spread you're renting down there along the west coast of Florida. You said it's not up to standard. You didn't have cable TV. You couldn't watch a Bengals game the other night. Whole 9 yards. You got family, you said, coming in. Have the accommodations improved?
Well, let me just say this. We don't have very good lighting in this room, do we? That's another complaint.
Is the power out?
It's just half-ass. I'm supposed to have someone put in some Wi-Fi into the building, and they are supposed to be here at 8 o'clock, and it's now 12 o'clock. So you're late, right? You're late. And then I talk to the guy. Well, that's a whole different story. I don't want to. I go from 1 to 100. I don't know if you know that, Thom. And then I start being very chippy. Chippy. And I start getting a little angry that we have no Wi-Fi. Thank God Danae brought her card that she uses to access the internet, or she couldn't work. It's just, come on, I'm paying top dollar. It's all right for Paul and Casey to have a place like this. They probably think it's big time. But for someone like a Tracy Jones, it's not that great. And I'm probably not going to come back.
Well, now, Tracy, one of our loyal viewers, Sir Boy Wonder, he goes by, says, you know what? Red Roof Inn has plenty of internet and plenty of good lighting, but you look down your nose at the possibility of that kind of thing.
Okay, let me pull back the curtain just a little bit. Can I pull it back a little bit?
Please.
I stayed at the Red Roof Inn when we drove up here for the night. Okay, that place is a dump, and the only reason I stayed there is because they allow dogs, right? Okay, so we always stay at a Red Roof Inn because they allow dogs. That's fine. It was $125 a night. But here's the problem: there was some crackhead upstairs that walked around till 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't know if it was. They were certainly a druggie, on meth. Kept me and Tucker. Danae fell asleep. She was tired. But you heard Tucker the whole night going, because he'd hear noises. But some crackhead loser, probably a Democrat, was sitting there, on drugs. It was very irritating. But I do like the Red Roof Inn. They're fine. They're the cheapest hotel going. Not in my character, though, Thom.
All right, Trace, before I let you go, because it will go down one way or the other over the weekend, and you've been waffling on this whole thing the entire time anyway, but which is normally not your style, but it is on this. Before we let you go, series is tied 2-2. It's down to a best-of-3 now. Who wins the World Series?
This game tonight is going to be interesting. I'll tell you why. Syndergaard against Verlander. They're both really good friends. They both had Tommy John surgery in the offseason. And if you look at their stats, Syndergaard has pitched like 9 innings in a month, right? And Verlander's given up 12 runs in 15 innings. See, I actually prepare for the show as well. I've got a lot of information. So those guys had Tommy John surgery in the offseason. They rehabbed together. Syndergaard really respects Verlander. I just think we're going to get a big surprise. I think my point is this. I got to get to the point because I get a little long-winded. The point is, I think they've hit a wall. Both those pitchers, they're tired. And because Verlander giving up 12 runs in 15 innings, that's kind of crazy, right?
Right.
So we'll see tonight. Again, I didn't answer your question. I talked for 5 minutes and didn't answer your question. That's why I'm so good at this broadcasting stuff.
Are you going to answer it or not?
I'm going to go with the Astros.
Okay.
Although, and Dusty, I love Dusty, and that whole thing about African Americans, no African Americans.
That's a big
in
deal.
The World Series.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
And if I played, would you consider me the 3% if I was playing in the World Series? Would you consider
I would
me
not.
an African
No, I would not. But this is a big, big deal in baseball. And I was on a panel that had a 3-hour conversation about this. People who are a lot smarter and a lot more learned than I am. When you played,
yeah,
African American ball players made up over 18, closer to 19% of those in the major leagues. That number now is down under 6% in the major leagues. And Tony Clark, head of the union, Rob Manfred, Dusty Baker, all the power brokers are embarrassed by this whole thing. But they will point to the fact, as you pointed out not too long ago, we briefly touched on this discussion, that I think it was like 4 of the top 8 or 9, and then like 11 of the top 22 that were in this year's draft were African American. So perhaps it's starting to move in the right direction. Tracy,
let me just end it on this, because I dated an African American girl when I was in high school, and she always brought up the point, I think it was a legitimate point, is why aren't there any black place kickers in the NFL? That really bothered her. Think about that, Thom. Yeah.
It's, I mean, it's certainly something to think about. Because you go to a ton of high school football games, and I do, because I still have a son in high school.
Yep.
You see a ton of teams whose best athlete, kind of like you were in high school, right? You probably did everything, right? You know, play offense, play defense. You're the punter, you're the field goal kicker, the whole 9 yards. And there are African-American field goal kickers everywhere at the high school level. That's a very interesting
We got to do something about that, Thom.
All right. Tracer, have a great rest of the time on your trip.
All right. See you, boys.
See you, Tracy.
How about that? Thought-provoking stuff from Tracy Jones, as always.
He's been thought-provoking this week. Those are a good couple of shows from Tracy.
Mediocre, truth be told, at best. Mediocre at best.